Good morning and welcome to It's a Great Day for Business Atlanta. I'm Ron Rizzi and we're here with a very, very special guest. This is the Spotlight segment and a moment where we really have time to really get some interesting ideas out for you to listen to and explore. And today we have Dr. Peter Vajda, and Peter has a wonderful website which I would consider to be a moral compass, a mental compass, as well as a way to kind of get you to get through life. And it's called True North Partnering. Peter, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Ron. Nice to be here.
Now, very, very simply put, you're here in Atlanta, and of course we mentioned earlier that you're originally from New York, so certainly been exposed to a number of different things over the years. But I think True North Partnering is an endeavor that really is there to help people in guidance, as well as just dealing with all sorts of different occurrences, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the basic premise of True North Partnering is to support people to create change in their life. But change that's positive, that's directed in terms of purpose, moving true north. Change that's not reactive, but change that's responsive.
And change today is something that we really have to embrace. I think there's so many different difficulties that are going on, whether someone's going through a divorce, perhaps they might be going through a job change, there might be career issues, there's technology that's changing every 30 seconds, and the kids are okay with that because they've grown up in that early environment. But for adults, it can be a very, 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 very difficult situation to grasp. How do you help people deal with those things?
Well, change is a choice. So for me, the process is to begin with asking a question. And the question is, if you could show up as a better you in some area of your life, career and livelihood, finances and abundance, relationships with family, friends, intimacy and partnership, spiritual and personal development, health, personal living space and organization, community service to yourself. If you could show up as a better person in one or more of those areas, what would that look like? What would it feel like? What would it be like? What would it sound like? What would people be saying about you? And if you took each of those areas and asked an individual to rate their experience in that area right now on a scale of 1 to 10, what rating would they give? And so my work is about getting them to a next level, moving the needle a little further along. So if you choose one of those areas and you say, well, you know, my gut feeling is I'm a 5 in terms of intimacy and partnership, career and livelihood. Well, my question would be, what would a 5.5 look like? What would it feel like? What would it sound like? What would it be like? What would people be saying about you? And then that creates a vision. And so the process is, from that vision, we move down to more practical aspects, which would be, for example, what milestones would you, measurable and observable milestones, would you see along the way that would indicate you're heading in that direction of change? And then a next question might be, well, what obstacles might get in the way of your movement toward change? Mental obstacles, emotional obstacles, physiological obstacles, psychological obstacles. And by the way, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, I'm a coach. But inner work is really an important piece of what I do. So what are the obstacles that are preventing you from moving forward? And then what strategies and tactics and steps would you use to move through those obstacles? And finally, at the ground level, where the rubber meets the road, what action plan have you put in place beginning today that will move you in the direction of change? But change is a choice. And lots of folks don't choose to change because the devil I know is more comfortable than the devil I don't. And change is really, really difficult to change and take them through this process.
Well, accepting change is a very, very difficult thing, and I think I think the key word for some might be resistance. It's the unknown. It's a fearful situation. What would be one of the perhaps one of the most focused pieces that somebody can look at or consider? That's something that you would work with them on to release some of the baggage that would allow them to be open and acceptable to change, even if it's something they're not interested or agree with?
Well, for me, from my perspective, I've done 20 plus years in deep study and learning and personal work around change. Physical change, mental change, psychological change, emotional change. And in this experience, the greatest learning comes from the obstacles that prevent you from change. So my work centers a lot around fear, flavors of fear, resistance that keep me from being stuck. And I do a lot of work with people on dealing with fear. Change, the definition of change, simply is becoming comfortable with your discomfort. So I use some physiological tools, I use some mental tools, I use some emotional tools, I use some psychological tools to support you to bite off a little of your fear. A little more, a little more. For example, I give every client 4 tasks to do on a weekly basis. Do something I hate to do something I never have time to do something I'm afraid to do, and do something that's not like me. And if you don't know what that is, ask your friends, your relatives, or they'll tell you.
Out of character.
Yeah. So each of those tasks will bring up your stuff. And as your stuff comes up, as your fear comes up, with the physiological tools that I work with you on, the mental tools, the emotional tools, we create new, for lack of a better word, neuronal programming. We become our own inner programmer, so that we create neural pathways in the brain that support one to come from a place of calm, peace, less stress, and that kind of thing, rather than be stuck in past programming and habits. I've got a rubber band here, and if I stretch this rubber band, one end represents the change, the place I'm moving towards. But what happens? The other end is pulling me back. The old habits, the old patterns, the old programming. And that's why for so many people change doesn't work. It's not sustaining. So we work on what is it that's pulling me back and how do I deal with it, but more so with the inner programming, how can I move forward to experience the kind of change I'm looking for.
And I think that, and not only in speaking here when we spoke earlier about this, I think some of the things that you work on with folks is the ability to look at the baggage, look at the situations that you've dealt with before and analyze the kind of scenarios, how they played out, and then not to go there again. And so when you bring up neural pathways, I think perhaps for the layman to really understand that, it might be like a recording in your library. If you have a set of LPs from your record collection, and you know that in the C's, you'll find a particular musician. And so rather than go there and always go back and grab that one record and listen to that same song, or play that same scenario out again when you're in a business situation, or you're dealing with your teenage son, asking them to do something and they're not listening, you'll go back and pull that piece of information out of your memory and play that out one more time. So I think what you're saying is let's go to a different LP in the catalog. Let's go to a different piece of information, or create that new piece of information.
And we go back because it's a safety zone, it's a comfort zone. And change, true and real change is challenging. True and real change needs to take you out of your comfort zone. And so if moving forward, we're taking baby step risks, another risk, but small, doable risks. That's what takes you out of your comfort zone. That's what keeps you from moving back into past habits, past programming, and like that. So it's all about taking risks and knowing you're not going to disintegrate. You're not going to die. I mean, that's the deal.
People are afraid of when you hear the term mind control. But honestly, we need to be able to control ourselves and control our own thoughts, not to worry about somebody else controlling our thoughts. And I think that's where we're headed with this, because the idea is if we walk into a business meeting and we know that the individual is difficult to deal with, it's perhaps your boss or maybe the local or regional person's coming out, and you know that they're going to be picking on certain issues in certain situations. And so somewhere in there you have to look at what your expectations are, and then try to generate new expectations. And so how do you separate yourself from that? There are techniques with meditation to be able to focus on breathing and so on. But what would you suggest?
Yeah, so some physiological things you can do. I mean, the idea is to see the situation as new and fresh without putting a past interpretation on it. And the past interpretation is often subconscious. You remind me of somebody from my past, that's why I'm being reactive to you. So some physiological things you can do is if you simply feel your feet on the ground, if you feel your butt in the chair, if you allow the chair to support you, if you do deep breathing, truly deep breathing, if you begin to body scan. So while I'm talking to you, I'm sensing the top of my head, I'm moving down through my head, I'm feeling my arms, I'm feeling my legs, I'm sensing my feet. The whole purpose of all that is not some new agey spiritual fluff, it's to take me out of my head. And to take me out of my head means to let go of past programming, let go of past habits, and to see my situation with you right here, right now, as fresh and new. Well, the exercises that we do, the kinds of physiological things that we do, the kinds of focusing that we do, moving me into my right brain. Well, the right brain is the area of peace and calm. The right brain allows me to access the neocortex of my brain, the rational, thinking, logical area of my brain, and not be caught in the emotional reactive. So I can sit here with you as a fresh, new experience, be a little shaky, be a little nervous, but see you as just a one-time event without imposing any past interpretation on you. That's how we move into new kinds of programming. And you said something before that's really important. Two principles that we work on is my mind is me, not mine. My emotions are me, not mine. I become the master of who I want to be and how I want to be in my life without the past habits, the wiring, the programming, keeping me reactive.
So really what I understand from this is that we're talking about being in the moment. And if you can function in the moment and not bring the past or what your expectations might even be for the future, then you'll probably get to a better place or a better solution in all of your relationships and all of the issues that you may be dealing with in your life.
It's a place where you can settle. It's a place where you feel grounded. You're not tied to defensiveness. You're not tied to anger. You're not tied to fear. You can just breathe and be here right now. And that's where we want to be. Because that's what makes, that's what allows you to show up authentically as your real you, and not oftentimes as a 3, 4, 5-year-old in an adult body wearing adult clothes. You're mature, you're adult, and it's okay.
And actually, I think if all of us work towards this, we probably will have a healthier environment, healthier relationships with everyone, family and friends and so on. Great stuff, Peter. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been just wonderful speaking with you today and speaking with you earlier this week as well. Some very interesting things, including having in common coming from New York, which is interesting in itself, just by that there. TrueNorthPartnering.com is your website. That's the most easiest way to get to you there, both telephone or email, and to get in contact. So open up some dialogue. Sounds like.
So I appreciate the opportunity, and I also want to applaud you for the good work you're doing on brain research. Yeah, good for you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for visiting here today with us at It's a Great Day Atlanta. Dr. Peter Bajda, thank you.